In July 2025, astronomers discovered 3I Atlas, only the third known interstellar object ever observed. At first glance, it behaves like a comet, but some scientists are asking, could it be something more than just a comet? In fact, a team led by Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb even published a paper speculating that 3I Atlas might be a hostile extraterrestrial spacecraft in disguise. While most experts remain skeptical, the speculation isn't coming out of thin air, it's based on several puzzling observations. In this video, we'll explore scientific reasons why some believe 3I Atlas might be an actual alien object or a spacecraft. As you listen, you can judge for yourself whether these clues are extremely compelling or just fascinating coincidences. One of the first things that raised eyebrows about 3I Atlas is its path through our solar system. Unlike typical comets, which can approach from virtually any random angle, 3I Atlas is following a trajectory strangely aligned with the ecliptic plane, the flat disk in which the major planets orbit. This is statistically unlikely for a random interstellar object. It's as if this visitor is coming in on the freeway of our solar system rather than from an odd angle. Why does that matter? Because an object coplanar with our planets could pass near multiple worlds. And indeed, 3I Atlas will. Its course will take it relatively close, in cosmic terms, to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter as it sweeps through. To some researchers, this looks less like chance and more like a purposeful tour of the inner solar system. From your perspective, imagine how an intelligently guided probe might behave. It would choose a path that maximizes what it can see or do. Loeb and colleagues argue 3I Atlas orbit offers various benefits to an extraterrestrial intelligence. For instance, letting it spy on or even deploy instruments at multiple planets during one flyby. The fact that it skims past 3 planets is quite convenient if one's goal was reconnaissance. In an interview, Professor Loeb even remarked that this object's path appears almost intelligently directed. You can hear the intrigue in that choice of words. An interstellar comet coming in at just the right angle to visit our key planets feels like something out of a science fiction plot. Is it a coincidence, or could it be the mark of alien planning? Skeptics point out that with only a few interstellar objects known so far, we're still learning what typical behavior is. It's possible that some natural interstellar comets will by chance align with the ecliptic. Even so, 3I Atlas' improbable orbital alignment remains a core reason why some consider an artificial origin. It's as if the object found the one highway that lets it sightsee the solar system's major attractions. For those entertaining the alien hypothesis, this unusual trajectory is the first clue that 3I Atlas might not be just wandering randomly, it could be on a mission. Another curious aspect of 3I Atlas' journey is how it times its closest approach to the Sun in relation to Earth's viewpoint. As the comet-like object heads toward its perihelion, its nearest point to the Sun, expected in late October 2025, it will actually be on the opposite side of the Sun from Earth. You, as an observer on Earth, will essentially have the Sun in your eyes exactly at the moment this visitor is doing the most interesting things near the Sun. This geometric coincidence has prompted speculation that it's not a coincidence at all. Loeb's team suggests this could be an intentional tactic by an intelligent sender. By arriving at perihelion behind the Sun from Earth's perspective, 3I Atlas would avoid detailed observation by our telescopes at a critical moment. Think of it like a spacecraft hiding in the Sun's glare to mask its true activities, a classic trick in space operas. If 3I Atlas were deploying miniature probes or gadgets toward Earth or other planets, Doing so while hidden by the sun would make it much harder for us to notice. The imagery is striking, an alien craft using our own star as camouflage. Now, from a natural standpoint, one might argue that plenty of comets end up behind the sun relative to Earth at perihelion. It's not a rare occurrence. Cometary orbits are oriented in all sorts of ways. To someone in your shoes, it raises an interesting question. If an extraterrestrial probe wants to slip through the inner solar system, gather data, maybe drop off something, and leave with minimal detection, isn't this exactly the kind of path you'd plot? This sneaky solar conjunction is thus cited as the second reason to suspect 3I Atlas might be more than meets the eye, a cosmic visitor taking advantage of the sun's blinding spotlight to cloak its moves. The third reason scientists like Loeb have entertained an alien hypothesis comes down to speed and the almost eerie timing of 3I Atlas arrival. In fact, it's moving significantly faster than the two prior interstellar objects, Oumuamua and 2I Borisov. At such high velocity, once it slingshots around the sun, 3I Atlas will zoom back out into interstellar space, putting it effectively out of our reach. For you and the world's space agencies, this means we have very little time to react. Designing and launching a spacecraft to chase it is nearly impossible on such short notice. By the time we could get a probe off the ground, 3I Atlas would be long gone. Loeb and colleagues note this as a suspicious point. An artificial object might deliberately travel just fast enough that curious civilizations can't easily catch up to it. It's as if the visitor is saying hello and goodbye before we can even say, wait, come back. Even more provocative is the historical timing. Based on its trajectory and speed, Loeb calculated that 3I Atlas entered the outer edges of our solar system roughly 8,000 years ago. To put that in perspective, around 8,000 years ago, human civilization was in its early stages. We were just beginning to develop advanced tools and record history. Now, in the 21st century, when we finally have telescopes and technology capable of detecting interstellar visitors, 3I Atlas just so happens to be swinging through the inner solar system. Loeb highlights this coincidence. The object arrived right around the era humans became technologically advanced enough to notice it. Could that be by design? It's a tantalizing thought that perhaps an alien civilization timed their probe to appear when we have the means to observe and perhaps respond to it. When 3I Atlas was first detected, it appeared remarkably bright for an object so distant, which hinted at something surprising. It might be bigger than any interstellar visitor we've seen before. Early observations suggested a large amount of dust and gas around it, a coma, spanning about 15 miles across. This led to estimates that the solid nucleus at the center could be on the order of several kilometers wide, maybe 10 to 20 kilometers in diameter according to some initial studies. To give you context, that's huge, potentially larger than many known comets from our own solar system. For comparison, the famous Halley's Comet has a nucleus roughly 11 kilometers long, and Borisov's nucleus was only about 1 kilometer. Such an unusually large size for an interstellar object made scientists pause. If 3I Atlas were really, say, 20 kilometers wide, it would weigh billions of tons and be extremely rare for something flung out of a distant star system. Rarity often invites alternative explanations. Could it be a manufactured structure or vessel? Loeb's paper specifically cited the object's apparently large size as one of the anomalies. From your point of view, a 20-kilometer alien craft or chunk of technology is a mind-boggling idea, but it's the kind of outside-the-box thinking this hypothesis encourages. Now, subsequent high-resolution images from the Hubble Space Telescope provided a bit of a reality check. They show that much of the brightness comes from dust in the coma, not the nucleus itself, meaning the actual core could be much smaller, perhaps well under 1 kilometer in size. In fact, astronomers now think the initial size estimates were overestimates due to the fluff of dust making the comet seem bigger. So the enormous size argument has weakened as new data arrived. But at the time of discovery, the sheer brightness and inferred scale of 3I Atlas had people wondering if we were seeing something like a large alien ship with a cloud of material around it, either as a byproduct of propulsion or a deliberate camouflage. Even if the nucleus is smaller than thought, 3I Atlas is still energetic and active, throwing off a lot of dust for its current distance from the Sun. It's noteworthy that it became visible and active relatively far out, hinting at volatile ices and a lot of surface area. Whether natural or not, it clearly isn't a dormant chunk of rock. It's behaving like a vigorous comet. To you as an enthusiast, the initial impression of a giant interstellar object remains one of the reasons this visitor stood out. It set the stage for wild ideas because if it had turned out to be as big as early guesses, that in itself would challenge our understanding of how something so large gets ejected into interstellar space. And where understanding falters, speculative imagination finds room. In short, 3I Atlas' unusual apparent size and brightness, especially in the early days of observation, added fuel to the maybe it's alien fire. What do you think about 3I Atlas? Has the case for an alien artifact sparked your curiosity, or do you side with the comet explanation? Humanity will undoubtedly discover more interstellar objects in the coming years, and who knows, one of them might indeed carry signs of an extraterrestrial design. Until then, the story of 3I Atlas reminds us that the line between science fact and speculation can sometimes blur in fascinating ways. If you enjoyed this deep exploration, like this video and subscribe to our channel for more study and analysis of space and discovery. Don't forget to share your thoughts or theories in the comments. After all, the universe is full of questions, and together, I guess you and I can keep searching for answers among the stars.